What is there about the American dream that has ever been realized by black people? What could we ever hope for within the framework of a society which is dominated by white people?
Do you deny flatly that you are in any way tied in with the illegal drug traffic?
Yes, I do.
Would you care to reveal just what your business holdings are, how you acquired this wealth?
No, it is a matter of record.
Once upon a time, not long ago, stuff other than money mattered in America.
We must create for ourselves to save our very humanity. Because the fight for black power in this country is indeed a fight to civilize a barbaric country, the United States.
The only revolution based on loving your enemy is the Negro Revolution. That's no revolution.
And whether you are, to be honest, whether you're in banking or selling bundles, it's easier to be radical when you ain't got no money.
And working on his documentary Beyond Street Dreams, one of the most fascinating characters in the vast panoply of the underworld and non-underworld people associated with the Motown Mafia and with the whole the black gangster scene there of the late 60s into the 70s, the American gangster era, and the Frank Lucas, Nicky Barnes, Eddie Jackson, was actually Eddie Jackson and Courtney Brown's lawyer, Milton Henry.
Mr. Henry is from Philadelphia, a graduate of the Yale Law School, who served 6 years in the Detroit City Council, ran for Congress, but was beaten by another Negro, Mr. John Conyers. His background is middle class, and his 11 brothers and sisters, he admits, were trained to be, quotes, good Americans. You're going to find it very, very hard to improve the future by saying, as you recently did, that the white people of this country owe $400 billion to Negro people for two reasons. Number one, the economic illustration is going to be very hard to provide. Number two, there are a lot of white people in America. For instance, let's say Mrs. Paderewski, whose parents arrived 10 years ago
and she
from
came,
Poland.
and she enjoys benefits today, which I can't enjoy. A man walking off the ship, if he's white,
she's
can enjoy benefits today, which I can't. He becomes an heir to it by virtue of his whiteness, to inclusion within the system.
She's going to say, Mr. Henry, I arrived here, and I've been working for $85 a week as a washerwoman. You say you're a racist. I'm not. I say
I am a racist.
I say that all races are capable of very bloody things.
Oh, I'm capable of
Irish, Negroes, Swedes, whatever.
I'm a good black racist, and I like them. White ones I can't stand at all.
Well, you can see they used to have actual intellectual conversations on television. Imagine now, they're not screaming at it. This Milton Henry is proposing black separatism, and he's on a show with the most noted white conservative journalist of the time, and they're not screaming at each other. They're having a very, a serious conversation. They're letting each other talk, totally unlike what goes on now. You can see society's kind of gone backwards, really. All everyone thinks about is money. Everything is rage bait.
Milton Henry is debating William F. Buckley and supporting his movement for the Republic of New Africa, talking about the United States government needs to give African Americans the 5 slave states of the Confederacy.
Milton Henry is the president of the Republic of New Africa, a group of dissident American Negroes who desire to carve out a new country within what we now know as the United States.
So Milton Henry was born in 1911. He was a Tuskegee Airman, which was the black Air Force, very elite. But after he got out of World War II, which he narrowly survived because he refused to sit in the back of a bus. This is 10 years before Rosa Parks, and some white soldiers were going to kill him, but there were some British soldiers there that backed him up. He gets out of the Army. He's going around black neighborhoods in Philadelphia telling the black youth, don't sign up for the Army. So he was a radical. And Milton Henry, along with some other people, formed the Republic of New Africa. And this was a group kind of responsible for the idea of reparations, putting a number on reparations. So quite an important person at the time. When he died, maybe 10, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, it made the New York Times.
50 Detroit policemen shot their way into a Negro church Saturday night after one officer had been killed and another seriously wounded outside the church. A meeting of the Republic of New Afrika, a militant Negro separatist organization, was in progress inside the church. Police said the men who shot the officers had taken refuge in the church and had continued firing outside. 4 people inside the meeting were wounded. All of the Negroes inside the church were taken into police custody.
So the Detroit police come into a famous pop star's father's church, who's famous himself, and they have a shootout with Republic of New Afrika. White police officer died, a black judge, Crockett. I don't think anyone had ever charged with murder, nor was convicted of murdering him. So, again, a very different time. You think about the past and you think, I mean, I can't imagine a black radical group killing a police officer now and not getting convicted, whatever the circumstances. So things are very different.
2 were charged with possession of weapons, but no one has yet been charged in the murder of the policeman. The judge who released them said their constitutional rights had been violated by the police. Pastor C.L. Franklin, who had rented the church to the Republic of New Afrika, said the police had no regard for the lives of the 135 people at the meeting.
A white congregation in here that the police, if, let us say, 4 people had run in, that had shot somebody, they would have come in.
I believe the same thing would have happened because 2 police officers shot and men went in here with rifles, the same action.
Within
every white man in America has benefited from the institution of slavery, from my degradation, from my work, from my labor. Every white man in America.
Well,
and he continues the desirable position that he...
For years, he's representing Eddie Jackson, Cordy Brown in federal court.
Paid a lot of money.
And being paid.
Mr. Brown, we're wondering why you haven't sued or taken some other action. I think if these stories had been written about me, I would be denying them to the nth degree.
Well, we denied it already, and like I say, we have to let our lawyers handle it in the legal matter through the courts.
Can you give any reason why they were singled out of all the people in the metropolitan Detroit area?
Well, they weren't singled out. They've just thrown a lot of names around, as I can see.
The sins of the fathers shall be transferred down through successive generations.
But I was taught Grant's the theory of absolution.
No, you're talking about Paul,
is penitence.
Of course. I know white people
Christ.
love Paul. Where did Christ say it? Where did he say it?
This all connects to also the family of everyone's favorite dead rapper, Tupac. His play auntie, Assata Shakur, was part of something called the Black Liberation Army, which was made up. It was the underground, illegal, not criminal illegal. Well, I mean, they weren't selling drugs, but people that were in the Black Panthers and the Republic of New Afrika, who found the Black Panthers and the Republic of New Afrika not violent enough, basically formed the Black Liberation Army.
Here in New York, a citywide manhunt is on for the killers of 2 policemen who were shot in the back last night in Harlem. It was the 4th armed attack on city policemen in the past 3 days.
The 2 policemen had been summoned to a Harlem housing project last night to help a sick woman. And there, without warning or explanation, as they were leaving, the officers, 1 white and 1 black, were shot dead, gunned down from behind. The killers, both black men, disappeared. Only 2 days earlier, 2 other New York policemen were machine-gunned and badly wounded by the occupants of a car that they'd stopped for a traffic violation. Again, the assailants were black. No evidence, or none yet, that the 2 attacks were in any way connected.
Many of their members were convicted of murdering police officers in several cities. Assata Shakur, Joanne Chesmard, was convicted of killing a New Jersey state trooper. She escaped and recently died in Cuba.
She made her break this afternoon from the prison in Clinton, New Jersey, and lawmen once called her the soul of the Black Liberation Army.
In the United States, she is known by the police and FBI as Joanne Chesmard, one of the nation's most wanted fugitives. Wanted for what police describe as the cold-blooded execution of a New Jersey state trooper back in the 70s.
Tupac's family, well, she wasn't his blood relative. The Shakur last name is a last name they all took as like an allegiance to each other, but they weren't related blood. But So Tupac's aunt in the struggle, and his mother, who defended herself at the Panther 21 trial, where they were charged with plotting to do all type of stuff around the city of New York, she defended herself and won, so she was brilliant. So Tupac's aunt and mother did much more wild, radical things than he did, and got away with it, per se. So Milton Henry is enmeshed in this extreme black separatist movement at one point. So Courtney Brown's parents were dating at the peak of this. So you come out of the civil rights movement in the early 60s, and then the Black Power era, which was pretty brief, really, arises. His parents were, like many people, or I guess black people, you can hear him describe the family life.
Her and Pops in their day, so they're dating in the mid-60s. They would go see people like H. Rap Brown, famous Black Panther orator, Huey Newton. A lot of black couples, that's just what you did. Like one of her finest memories is like what she tells me when they met on the recently transferred from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali right there on Linwood at Mosque Number 1.
Why do you insist on being called Muhammad Ali now?
That's the name given to me by my leading teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's my original name. That's a black man name. Cassius Clay was my slave name. I'm no longer a slave.
I was one of those kids getting what they called the blowout, where you make your fro at upteenth numbers of red, black, and green Afro picks.
So amazing or interesting to think that's how America changed so fast. That was the period of time in which America went from people devoting their life to ideas, whether you believe in them or not, to within a couple years, Milton Henry has now let his brother is off being radical. Milton Henry went back to Yale, got a divinity degree, so he had a PhD in divinity, and he's a lawyer. He's defending one of the several largest drug dealers in the country, Eddie Jackson, who was making so much money. Eddie Jackson, when they were indicted in '72, paid the bail and the legal fees for 35, him and like 33 or whatever co-defendants. They stayed out for years. They made all their money while they were on bond. Again, something that wouldn't happen now. For example, Black Mafia family, there's no bond. They got picked up. They barely had lawyers they paid for. I think they had public defenders at least part of the time. You really can't even have a high-paid lawyer in a criminal case now because they'll just take the money.
I mean, he was the first black person I knew to live in Bloomfield Hills. Yeah, I mean...
What year did he move here?
Right after when the case started.
Oh, that was money probably from the kids.
Yeah.
So everything is totally different now. Things were, again, everything was not run off money. Everyone wasn't obsessed with money, but this is the period of time when it changed. Milton Henry, the black separatist, ends up living in the most elite suburban area of the United States at that time. The nicest, most expensive suburbs of Detroit were the nicest suburbs in the country in 1970. Better than Beverly Hills. Why am I saying? I'm not just saying that. I mean, the per capita income's higher, schools ranked higher, less crime, just better.
Yeah, I mean, that's where all the big three leadership that wasn't in old money Grosse Pointe lived in Bloomfield Hills. Lee Iacocca, it's where Cranbrook is at. Back when I'm talking about, there were 6 blacks in the whole Cranbrook school system.
When you say that American black people should have some hope for integration into the whole of American life, they'd have to be absolute fools. You look about at the economic power. We can't think, only a fool would think that economic power in this country is shared to any degree by black people.
Milton Henry is debating William F. Buckley and supporting his movement for the Republic of New Afrika, talking about the United States government needs to give African Americans the 5 slave states of the Confederacy.
How are you going to take your financial foundation, your industrial foundation, which was built on my back, How are you going to take that and use it now and tell me that I had nothing to do with it and you don't owe me anything because you created a monster
now, wait a minute.
that you can use to my further oppression?
Sir.
Each time they made that voyage, they wound up with a profit, the individual owners, a profit of some $350,000 off of a $30,000 investment. That was a capital acquiring mechanism, the likes of which we certainly couldn't visualize today. When it was because of that the colonists were able to defy an England. They felt their muscle when they could see themselves growing. They felt their ability to compete in a real sense against England.
Nonsense.
Why is it then that those... And I say you, but your ancestors, what did they do to me?
We freed you.
And you made me a slave.
No, we didn't.
And I tell you now, I'm free. I'm free now. And believe me, I'll never again forget the lessons of the past.
Oh, but you should.
And I will therefore
you should forget the bitterness of the past.
Fight for my own independence.
The only civilized thing to do is to take an existing situation, attempt to learn from the past, and attempt to improve the future.
That's right.
Now, I maintain that as a practical matter.
Did everybody, I think there's so much violence happened, all the people were killed, Robert Kennedy, Malcolm X, many others. Did people, is that the time in America where people gave up on ideas and it just became about money? Apparently so. That's the world we live in now. But so Milton Henry, in just a couple years, just like Courtney Brown's Sr. and his family, everybody's motivation changed. They were, the black identity, black separatism in the case of Milton Henry, that goes away, and these people just start making a lot of money and enjoying the material goods of America. Maybe that's the natural progression. That's the world that we live in now. Quite interesting. So Milton Henry was from Philadelphia, and so he had his contacts in Pennsylvania. So Milton Henry was so plugged in, he was able to get Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson was on bond for a massive heroin conspiracy. Drives to New York kind of randomly one night. The Gambinos load him up with a bunch of dope. He gets pulled over in rural Pennsylvania. The federal judge in Detroit doesn't violate his bond. He has another case pending. These are all life cases. And Milton Henry gets him out of it.
Eddie, driving actually my mom's car, Eldorado, had a bright idea, which was completely out of the business model to do this. They had carriers whose job it was to go to New York to do these things. Call it a long night, maybe a party that went way, way too out of control. But Eddie and 5-0 decided to go to New York. They go to New York, they see the Connect. When he pops the trunk, he finds the contraband. He finds the 11 bricks of heroin, the 3 bricks of cocaine. But now Eddie's got a double problem. So he's already under federal indictment for the major conspiracy case, which everybody went down on. And now he has a new case, a possession case in Pennsylvania. Well, there was a judge running for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that our attorneys or their attorneys knew. Milton told Eddie, if you made a sizable contribution to this gentleman's campaign and he was to win, he guarantees us that your case will get heard by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Eddie gives my old man, I believe it was $30,000, which he donated to this judge's campaign. That said judge won his election to become a judge on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Eddie's case went to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and it was dismissed due to an illegal search and seizure.
Played his cards right and was a beneficiary of the drug era. He got to move to West Bloomfield and run his church and died a revered person. Courtney Brown Sr., of course, went on to have more money-making runs. Courtney Brown Jr. has, in the past, reaped financial benefits, never went to prison. So not many winners in this world, but Milton Henry, Courtney Brown Jr. and Sr., I guess, are 3 of the few. In 1976, Eddie Jackson he was out on bond. He got caught going to a boxing match in Las Vegas. The feds were sick of him. They said, well, we're just going to keep you and you can start serving your 27 or 30-year sentence. But back then, federal parole was like 1/3 of the time. So he did about 8 or 9 years. But also in 1976, when Eddie Jackson went away, there was a huge corruption scandal in the Detroit police, the whole 10th precinct.
The federal grand jury is looking into alleged drug payoffs within the Detroit Police Department. Yesterday, the police chief was fired in a backlash to the investigation the day a deputy chief, once a member of the narcotics unit, was found shot to death. Randy Daniels reports from Detroit.
The death of Deputy Police Chief Reginald Harville shocked officials and has intensified the federal drug investigation of the Detroit Police Department. Harville, a 21-year veteran of the force, had been reportedly linked to the investigation, which centers on several police officials and one precinct. He was found in his second-floor bathroom, dead of 2 gunshot wounds in the chest. His wife and son were in the house at the time. Homicide investigators are saying little about the case, but Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Werner Spitz, who conducted the Harville autopsy, believes the death may have been suicide. Former Police Chief Philip Tanyan, who was forced to resign yesterday by Mayor Coleman Young for helping in the federal probe without the mayor's knowledge, found the shooting questionable.
I've been in law enforcement for a good many years, and it just seems to me to be an incredible series of circumstances when a man shoots himself in the chest, not once, but twice. It's almost indescribable, the shock and the pain to the human body with just one shot, but then to imagine that a man picks up the gun again and shoots himself a second time does stretch credibility.
So this stuff's much more interesting than the drug tales of today, tied in with other movements and etc. And Republic of New Africa still exists, sort of. I think the gang member Monster Cody was part of that. I mean, even to the end of his life. So all of these ideas are still around, but they're very low energy in America. Everything is money, AI, But I feel like, and probably a lot of us do, stuff is going to go off the rails. I think we're going to have to get back to some type of idea other than just an obsession with money, because it only works for a handful of people. Eddie Jackson spent most of once his run was over, he went to prison, got out, went right back, died in prison before he could get back out. Ironically, Milton Henry getting his case overturned, and Eddie Jackson was going to get out and have his case that he got put in prison in '85 for overturned, but he died first in prison.
Mayor Young replaced Tanyan with a career policeman, Deputy Chief William Hart, a non-controversial official Young hopes will build department morale. Meanwhile, the federal drug investigation continues in earnest, with most policemen wondering how high the probe will go.
So the 10th precinct scandal involved hitmen working with the police. That's a whole big story of its own. As you can see, the head of the narcotics division killed himself by shooting himself twice in the chest, which is possible. Ironically, though, the Detroit mob became skillful at killing people and making it look like suicide. The person's house that probably Jimmy Hoffa was killed at shot himself in the chest multiple times in the mid-'80s or the early '80s, ironically. Or not so ironically, just like that cop. And as you see, if you're not old enough or you're not from Detroit, that chief of police that Coleman Young appointed after he sacked the white chief Philip Tanyan, William Hart.
In a 3-month front-page scandal that has the whole town talking, the FBI and a federal grand jury are investigating an alleged $1 million police corruption scheme linked to an illegal diversion of money from a secret police fund controlled by the chief for use in undercover drug buys.
I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't commit any crime. Period.
And Police Chief Hart insists he knew nothing about this. $72,000 in rent payments on this Beverly Hills house, leased by his daughter for 2 years.
Some contractors were working in his house they accidentally found like $1 million in the ceiling. He did 10 years. Some people say he took the fall for Coleman Young. I don't really think that's true. And he, again, if you're from Detroit, there was a Payless shoe store in Grand Circus Park in Woodward. Chief Hart worked there briefly after he got out of federal prison and died of a heart attack. So in the space of 10 years, 66 to 76, you go from no one's really obsessing over money at all, well, other than a small amount of people, and there's a lot of idealism. There's strong feelings of racism, control to black people. There's black separatism. There's, all these strong ideas. And it only lasts a few years. By the early 70s and all through the 70s, it just becomes about money and corruption, and it just keeps getting worse. And now, frankly, as I finish up Beyond Street Dreams, I'm moving into talking about the real crimes as we see with the unfolding of the Epstein thing, which is just getting more crazy by the day of what's coming out. Not to mention, is the whole stock market kind of a fraud? Is the whole economy just a Ponzi game? Or, a substantial portion of it? Possibly. Who are the real criminals? It certainly doesn't, I wouldn't think of the most socially destructive criminals now being drug dealers, even though they try to pitch that to you. And now that the whole way drugs come into the country and our soul has changed, I don't know, are there even any black drug kingpins anymore? Probably not. Certainly not at the level of even a Big Meechin. Definitely not like Eddie Jackson, Nicky Barnes, Frank Lucas, Frank Matthews, or people of that era. Someone like Milton Henry, there's no one like Milton Henry. I mean, do the best and brightest even become lawyers? Probably not. Who knows what they do? I don't know. Do they start AI companies or something now? The whole scamming at the highest level, starting with our president, is the order of the day, and different world we live in. But things were very different not too long ago. Milton Henry, a very interesting character at the center of this swirl of the underworld and very serious, idealistic Marxist politics. Remember, well, if you didn't know, not remember, but I'll leave you on this note for those that want to study that era. All of the radical groups, whether it was the white student movements that were bombing the Weather Underground, the Black Panthers, even Republican New Africa, these were Marxist. They had Marxist, Leninist ideas, or Marxist ideas where capitalism is actually the problem. But yet, capitalism was ultimately totally embraced by those on the top. You had people like Assata Shakur, who didn't embrace capitalism. She had to go hide out in Cuba and died a wanted woman. Beyond Street Dreams coming soon. Al Prophet, American Dope.